Hello, students. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I was asked to just give you a brief overview and a little teaser for human resource management and managing the people within an organization. So, over the next 5 to 7 minutes, if I'm able to keep to my time, I'm going to just give you a really brief overview. My name is Dr. Jonathan Westover. I'm department chair in the organizational leadership department, and I'm professor of HR, organizational development and change management, and leadership at Utah Valley University. I've been at UVU now for over 11 years. I love it. We have an amazing HR program with awesome HR faculty, and this could be a really great place for all of you. Now, as I get started, I just wanted to share briefly a few key points related to managing with your human resources. First, what is HR? Now, think about what you think when that term is used. Most people who don't have a lot of experience with HR, they'll typically think of Toby from The Office, if you happen to watch that show. Or they may think of the time that they had to work with HR when they got hired at a new job and they had to go fill out some new hire paperwork or do new employee onboarding or new employee training at an organization. Or maybe you had issues with your paycheck or with your benefits, so you had to go talk to HR. Hopefully, you've never had to deal with things like sexual harassment or workplace bullying or other types of negative behaviors in the workplace, or even performance management issues where you've worked. But those might be other reasons why you've had to go to HR in the past. So, because that's most people's experience with HR, there tends to be a bit of a distorted kind of a view of what HR is all about. And while certainly HR does all of those things, and it does a lot around legal compliance and making sure that you're following all the labor laws and all those sorts of things, HR is a much more dynamic field and a very complicated and inclusive field of study and of practice. So there are so many awesome job opportunities within HR, and I'm going to explain a little bit about what all that means here in just a moment. But real quick, in general, if we zoom out a little bit, HR is all about the policies, practices, and systems that influence employees' behavior, their attitudes, and their performance, and really how all three of those interrelate and interact with each other. And it's like a Venn diagram. Behaviors and attitudes and performance, they overlap, and in fact, they influence each other. The better my workplace behaviors, usually the better my attitude and better performance. Better attitude leads to better behavior, which leads to better performance. Better performance makes you feel happier at work. You have better attitudes and better performance. So it's all reciprocal, it's all cyclical, and ultimately in organizations in HR, we're trying to maximize the human potential, the human capital within an organization, so that our people can be fulfilled, so that they can do their best work, they can be their whole selves at work, and the organization can be successful as well. So HR includes a lot of stuff. It includes from the very foundations of an organization, the analysis and the design of work and the design of organizations. How do you actually put together effective organizations structurally, hierarchically? How do you design jobs that are meaningful, that add value, that people get excited to get up in the morning and go to? That's all part of HR, and that's all part of that initial analysis and design of work phase. From that, you start to build, and we have HR planning and staffing. This is around forecasting labor supply demand issues, trying to understand how many people will you need in the organization to be able to keep it running at peak performance. And then how do you deal with ebbs and flows in the economy, ebbs and flows in the labor supply and demand? How many people do you need performing different types of roles and different types of tasks, and how can they complement each other? That's all of the stuff that goes into HR planning, and it's a super fascinating area, very strategic. Then once you know who you need and you have the organization designed the way you want it, then you have to recruit. And there's a lot that goes into effective recruiting practices and making sure you're an inclusive employer that recruits from a wide range of different populations so that you can have a diverse workforce. And you can think about it like a funnel. If you want the recruitment funnel to be really wide, and so you can get a lot of people into the pool, and once you get a good recruiting pool of applicants, then it starts to funnel down through this selection process. And in the selection process, through interviewing, through reviewing resumes, through doing work samples and trying to understand who's going to be the best fit for the organization, ultimately you get to the bottom of that funnel and you get to that person, hopefully, who will be a really awesome star player, star performer for the organization and really help your team with the right knowledge, skills, and abilities to be effective. From there, once you get your team together and you have the right people in the organization in the right positions, then it's all about training and development on an ongoing basis. How do you effectively train people? How do you develop them? How do you create a leadership pipeline? How do you have succession planning to make sure that you have the next crop of ready managers and leaders in place as the organization continues to grow? Lots of really fascinating stuff around training and development. There's also the functional elements of compensation, which includes pay, perks, benefits, all of that kind of stuff, and being able to manage all of that effectively, but also be able to have a strategic approach to how we are dealing with our performance management issues. Then we have performance management. We have to be able to monitor people's performance and coach them and mentor them and help them get to their peak levels of performance. And then finally, employee relations. Sometimes that includes a union environment, but even without a union, you have to be thinking about employee relations. You have to be thinking about the relationship between your boss and their team and everyone up and down the hierarchy of the organization. And it's really important work. Now, underneath all of that is a foundation of legal compliance. You have employment and labor law issues that you have to be aware of that influence each of these areas. Ultimately, when you do all of that well, you manage the people side of the organization well, that leads to higher levels of company performance. So a company with effective human resource management, they have employees and customers that are more satisfied. Companies are more innovative, they're more productive, they have better, more favorable PR and reputation in the community, and it's a win-win-win all the way around because you have happy, engaged, satisfied workers who love their job. They also then help the organization to succeed. So I like to look at HR from a human capital perspective. Think about all the different forms of capital that are at the disposal of an organization to be strategic and to drive competitive advantage. You have plant, equipment, property, you have financial capital, you have intellectual property. You also have human capital. You have the people within the organization that create, that innovate. And the human capital is that collection of all of the training, the experience, the judgment, the intelligence, the relationships, the insights, everything, both tangible and intangible, that the person brings to the organization. And in aggregate, collectively, all those employees together, they create the human capital of the organization. And we want to leverage the human capital of the organization to help everyone achieve their greatest potential, because that means the organization is then going to achieve its greatest potential. And the reality is that everyone involved in leadership does HR stuff. So no matter what your job title is, whether you are ever specifically doing HR and you have HR in your job title, if you're managing people, even down to the lowest supervisory level, you're doing HR stuff in your job each and every day. So even a supervisor that only has maybe 2 or 3 people that they supervise, they're defining the work that their people do. They're helping to forecast HR needs. They're providing training on an ongoing basis. They're interviewing and helping with the selection of people to work on their team when there's an opening. They're the ones that are evaluating performance and doing the mentoring and the coaching and trying to help people improve their performance. They're the ones that make the recommendations for pay increases, promotions, bonuses, all of those sorts of things. They're usually the front lines communicating all the company policies, all the compliance issues, all of that sort of stuff. And ultimately, they're the ones doing all of the work around motivation, creating a motivating environment, leading their people, supporting them with pay and benefits and other rewards. All of this is HR stuff. And all of this are the types of things that supervisors, managers, leaders, and executives all the way up the line in the organization have to do on a regular basis. So we need to know how to do HR well if we want to run a successful business. Now here you can see just a snapshot of some of the types of different HR positions and what it could look like for you. If you decided you wanted to be involved in the HR program at UVU, we would love to have you. And there's so many great opportunities in the different types of work that you can do, lots of variety, but also really good paying jobs within the HR industry, within the HR field. Human resource information system specialists, just entry level, you're looking at easily over 50 grand. And as you move up in terms of expertise and ability to help an organization, you can make a ton of money as an HR information system specialist. A senior HR generalist, they can make a lot. You have employment and recruiting managers, compensation managers, organizational development and training managers, HR directors, even all the way up to HR executives. And that, here you can see the median, which means some people make a whole lot more. So there's a lot of opportunity. I'll end with this. I know I'm already over my 7 minutes. I was going to try to hold myself to, but I really do want to keep this on the shorter end. So just a few more minutes. Hold on. Just a few more minutes. Here I have outcomes of a high performance work system. Here you can see what it looks like when you have successful HR within an organization. You have interesting work because you've designed jobs that people love. You have interesting work that leads to more satisfied workers, which leads to more satisfied customers, lower absenteeism, lower turnover. That reduced costs for the organization. Ultimately, that results in higher profits. On the other side of this graphic, you can see it when you create a culture of a knowledge sharing environment, that leads to greater levels of innovation, higher quality, more satisfied customers, greater productivity, higher sales, higher profits. All of this is what HR is all about, creating these types of systems, these types of designing work that looks this way, that with the policies, practices, and procedures that will help organizations to be successful. So that is a really quick overview of this huge field of HR. We have, you can get a BA in HR, a BS in HR. We have an integrated studies emphasis with HR. We have a minor in HR. There are so many ways that you can get involved in HR, even if it's just by taking some of our courses as you're trying to round out your degree program if you choose a different major. But if you're interested in HR, if you think that this is something you might want to pursue, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, Dr. Westover, or any of my other colleagues in the Woodbury School of Business in my department. All of us would be more than happy to talk with you. The advisors in the Advisement Center would be happy to talk to you about the HR program. It's a really great field. I love being involved in HR, both as a professor, but also as I do consulting outside of UVU as well. So thank you all for your attention. Sorry I went longer than my 7 minutes, but I hope this was informative, and I hope to see you in my classes and in the program in the future. Thank you very much.